let me explain why John Adams was a fucking horrible president. I've had this on my conscience for a long time, so I just want to vent it out because everyone's like, "No, what are you talking about? He was a great president." Yada yada yada. No, he was not. To give context for some people like Indigold who don't know who John Adams was, or at least doesn't know like what his whole thing was about. George Washington, picture this. It's George Washington, it's a second term, and people are expecting him to run for a third. But he's like, I ain't really feeling it. So he drops out. He quits after a second term. Which leads for there to be some actual competition between John Adams, a Federalist, and Thomas Jefferson, and a Democratic Republican. John Adams barely beats out Thomas Jefferson and becomes our second president. Now, as second president, he has some big shoes to fill. George Washington, a great president, my favorite president of all time. John Adams, one of the worst presidents of all time. One of the main reasons why John Adams is so bad for me is because of the Alien and Sedition Acts. Basically, what this did was it made it illegal for people to speak negatively on the government, aka got rid of our First Amendment rights. Do I have to explain why that's a bad thing? I don't think I do. Second reason, the XYZ affair. Basically, at this point, we're having a kind of a falling out with France and Britain, because at this point, it's all about neutrality. We want to stay neutral in foreign affairs. That's like one thing that George Washington said we absolutely had to do. In fact, he said we needed to do three things. After, like, he had a whole speech about, like, how he wanted the country to run after he left office. He had three things that he thought the country needed to do. He said, we needed to stay neutral in foreign affairs. We needed to get rid of political parties because they would just divide us. And we needed to stay out of debt. We followed none of them. None of them. Now, granted, we tried to go negotiate peace with France. Because we're trading with both Britain and France, who were at a war with each other at that time. So because we're trading with both, the kind of friend of my enemy is my enemy kind of thing. But we're trying to negotiate with France, and France is like, okay, we'll talk. We're not even going to say we're going to, be at ease. We're going to be peaceful. But we can talk about peace if you give us, like, $30 million. I forget the actual number, but it was something crazy like that. And so we're like, nah, we're not going to do that, obviously. So we come back, right? And John Adams, who just wasted this whole 6-month-long trip to France, at least, is like, oh my god, guys, France doesn't want to talk about peace with us. What are we going to do? And so the Federalists are like, it's whatever. France is pretty cool, but Britain sucks. And Democratic Republicans are like, oh wow, Great Britain, or France is pretty cool, but Great Britain sucks. Or is it, I'm sorry, it's the other way. Did I say it wrong? I feel like I said something wrong. The Democratic Republicans like Britain, but hate France. The Federalists like France, hate Britain. Okay? So, it further divides the country and the two political parties at that time more and more due to the XYZ affair. And by the end of his presidency, he gets fucking bombed in the re-election to Thomas Jefferson because the Democratic Republicans obviously hate him. He's not a Federalist. He's not a Democratic Republican. And his own party hates him because of the Alien Sedition Acts. And because of how he treated the XYZ affair. There's a reason why there wasn't a single other Federalist president after John Adams. Even his own fucking son was a Democratic Republican. Because the Federalist name, the Federalist Party, was completely tainted after this presidency. And the Federalist Party would fizzle and fizzle, leaving just the Democratic Republicans for a good, 8 to 10 years before the Democrats and the Republicans, the main two parties that we have today, started to form. Before then, it was the Federalists and Democratic Republicans, which the Federalists got fucking shafted mainly because of John Adams, really. The only good thing that John Adams did was starting the Navy, which he didn't even use. So it's like, what's the point? The Navy's cool, But if John Adams did make the Navy, we would have had a sea army eventually anyway. So it's not like him creating the Navy was this big revolutionary idea. I mean, it was at the time, but again, it's not like if John Adams never made the Navy, we would just never have a Navy, ever. We just never have any powers on the Great Seas. So it's like, does that even fucking count as a plus? He didn't do anything with it. He also hated slavery, which is another good thing. But did he do anything to stop it? No! Even Thomas Jefferson, who owned so many slaves and had sexual relations with a lot of them, made an act that made it, that got completely abolished slaves from coming into the country. So now the only slaves that were in the country were slaves that were already in the country. So Thomas Jefferson, who was pro-slavery, did more to get rid of slavery than John Adams ever did. Just a fucking abysmal president from front to back.